The night was heavy with smoke, and the sky glowed with the red fire of torches. A valley deep in the Dragonlands trembled with the sound of wings. Beating in rhythm, dozens of dragons circled above, while others pressed close to the stone platform. Below, chained at the center, was a dragon smaller than the rest, her scales a pale silver cracked with scars her head. Hung low, but her eyes burned with sorrow. Her name was Kalira, and she was being punished for what the council called a crimeth. Crime was simple to the dragons, but cruel beyond reason. She had hatched daughters. 3 small hatchlings hidden, away born with bright flames burning in their tiny throats to the council and the elder males. This was unacceptable. Female dragons were forbidden, considered dangerous, too strong, and too uncontrollable. By ancient decree, every female hatchling had to be destroyed, and the mother punished to set an example. Crowd jeered, some shouted for fire, others for the blade chains rattled against the stone as Kalira tried to raise her head. She was weak but not broken. She did not fear death, she feared the council finding her daughters, who were hidden far away in a cave. Only she knew moaned. The crowd far at the edges stood a human. Commander Elias Ward. He had come to this world as part of a human trade mission, but he was restless and never trusted the uneasy peace with the Dragon Lord's humans were. Tolerated only because they brought supplies from the stars, but they were never welcome, and Elias knew he should not be here yet. Something in the cries of the chained dragon pulled him closer. Watched in silence, at first trying to understand the strange ritual the dragons were performing, but as the elder struck Kalira across the snout with a chain, he felt a spark deep inside him. The spark humans carried through every war, through every rebellion. A refusal to bow to Cruelty's elder dragon, a massive beast with scales like black iron, raised his voice for all to hear. He declared Kalira guilty, guilty for bringing weakness into the world, guilty for breaking sacred law, guilty for daring to protect daughters. Instead of sons, he said she would die slowly burned by dragonfire until her ashes were scattered. As warning torches were lowered, and the fire gathered at the throats of the waiting executioners, the heat rolled across the stone platform. Kalira closed her eyes for a moment and whispered to herself a word not in dragon tongue, but in the human language she had once learned long ago. Helped whisper was soft yet clear enough that Elias heard his heart hammered. He should have walked away, he should have stayed hidden. He was one man unarmed, surrounded by dragons who could end him in a blink, but he felt his legs moving. He pushed through the watching crowd, ignoring the shouts and hisses. His boots echoed on the stone path, every step heavier than the last. Crowd grew quiet, stunned to see a human stepping forward. No one moved at first. The dragons had never seen such defiance. Elias reached the base of the platform, his eyes locked on the chains cutting into Kalira's silver scales. He did not shout, he did not plead, he spoke with calm, steady words she comes with. Methelder blinked, then let out a deep laugh that rolled like thunder a human dares to command. Dragons, the crowd joined the laughter, firelight glinting off sharp teeth. But Elias did not move. His gaze never left Kalira's eyes. He repeated slower. This time she comes with me. Kalira lifted her head just enough to meet his stare. Her chest tightened, not from fear, but from something she thought lost long ago. Apith elder slammed his tail against the stone, cracking it under the force he mocked. Elias asking what one fragile human could do against a circle of dragons, he asked. If Elias wanted to die here, burned to ash with the criminal mother, but Elias took a step forward until he stood only a few feet from the flames. He spoke clearly. If she burns, I burn with her. A murmur spread through the crowd, confusion, disbelief, even some unease. Dragons had seen humans fight before, but never like this, never with eyes so steady, never with voices unshaken by the roar of flames. The executioners hesitated, their fire dimming for a brief moment. Elder hissed at them to finish it, but the hesitation spread like cracks in stone. Elias used it. He moved closer, his hand brushing the hot iron chains. His skin burned, but he did not flinch. He leaned closer to Kalira, whispering words only she could hear. Rerun when I say. Run. Kalira stared at him, her mind torn between fear and wonder. No one had ever spoken to her like this. No one had risked everything for her, not even her own kind. She gave the smallest nod, her breath shaky, but red-eyed elder roared enough. His jaws widened, fire swirling in his throat. The crowd cheered, expecting the blaze to consume both dragon and human. But before the fire leapt, free Elias shouted with every ounce of strength now in one motion. He yanked the chains free with a force no human should have possessed. The metal had been weakened by dragon flame and shattered under the sudden pull. Kalira lunged forward, her wings snapping open with a thunderous crack. Flames burst from her chest, wild and uncontrolled, catching torches and banners. Alike the crowd shrieked as fire spread in all direction. Celius climbed onto her back without hesitation. Gripping the spikes along her neck, she leaped into the air, wings beating hard. Though weakened by her wounds, the chains still clung to her legs, but she pushed upward, smoke and fire swirling behind them. Dragons roared in pursuit, but for the first time in countless years, a human and a dragon fled together. A flame shot past them, scorching the night sky. Elias held tight, his mind racing. Every second was borrowed time. The ground below glowed with spreading fire, villages of dragons lighting up in chaos. The elder bellowed promises of death, his voice chasing them into the clouds, but Elias did not look back. His eyes stayed forward, urging Kalira higher, higher, into the cold black sky. Chase would not end tonight. He knew they had only won a moment, not a war, but in that moment, a new story had begun. A human standing against the impossible, a dragon mother no longer alone, and 3 daughters hidden in the dark, waiting for a chance to live at the sky, swallowed them whole, the fire fading behind, only the echo of the words that had started it. All she comes with night air tore at Elias' face as Kalira struggled higher, her wings beat with ragged strength. Every breath of hers was a mix of pain and fire. The chains still dragged from her legs, clinking like ghostly bells in the wind. Below them, the valley-blazed dragons shouted in rage, their wings spreading wide to give chase. Glowing eyes filled the sky like falling stars, hunting them down. Elias gripped the rough spikes of her neck. His hands burned, but he held on tighter. He had no plan, no path, only the simple, stubborn truth: she must live. They must escape. Her daughters must not be found. Each second stretched longer than the last. Each beat of wings could be their last behind. Them 3 dragons rose faster than the rest. The hunters, their scales black and red, their jaws already sparking with fire. They gained quickly, closing the gap. Elias could hear the roar of their wings. Louder and louder, Kalira dipped sharply to the left, fire streaks passing just over them, scorching the cloud shoulder on. She growled, her voice deep and broken. Elias pressed low against her neck as she dove through a canyon. Sharp rocks jutted out like blades. One wrong turn would shatter them both, but Kalira twisted through narrow gaps, scraping her scales against stone, sparks flying from the impact. Hunters followed undeterred. Their rage made them reckless. Elias looked back. The glow of their fire painted their faces monstrous. He knew they could not keep running forever. Kalira was weak to wounded, to tired. If they did not act soon, they would be. Cotylia shouted above the wind, "Drop lower to the river." She obeyed, though her body screamed in pain. The canyon opened to a rushing torrent below. The water shimmered under the moonlight. She flew just above it, her wingtips slicing the current behind them. The hunters released fire streams. The water exploded into steam clouds, rising thick, and Hotelia's mind raced. He scanned the canyon walls, searching. Then he saw a crack in the cliff, barely wide enough. He pointed there. Kalira glanced, and without hesitation folded her wings. Pulling into a sharp dive, they slammed into the cracked stone, tore at her sides, but she forced through, breaking rocks free until the gap opened just wide enough to swallow them whole. Darkness closed around them. The hunters shrieked in anger, unable to fit through the narrow space. They rained fire at the opening, but stone shielded the fugitives inside. Smoke and flame filled the air, but Kalira pressed deeper into the cave until the sounds of pursuit faded into echoes. Silence at last, heavy, broken silence. Her wings folded. She collapsed onto the rough cave floor, chains rattling, her chest heaving with exhaustion. Elias slid down from her back, landing hard on his knees. He touched her scales, still hot from the battle. Her body shivered with weakness, but her eyes still burned alive. "They will not stop," she whispered. "They will hunt us until we are ash." Elias met her gaze, steady and unflinching. "Let them try." He pulled at the chains, cutting into her legs. His hands tore open on the sharp edges, blood dripping to the stone, but he did not stop. The links finally snapped loose, falling heavy with a metallic echo. Kalira stretched her limbs, hissing at the pain, her wings unfolded, slowly trembling. But free Elias leaned back against the cave wall, breathing hard. His heart still thundered, but his eyes stayed sharp. He asked her why. Why did they punish you for daughters? Why kill their own kind? Kalira lowered her head, shame and sorrow in her voice. Because the council fears them. Female hatchlings are born stronger, faster, more cunning than males long ago. They ruled with balance, but the elder males turned on them. They declared females dangerous, unnatural. They destroyed them and hid. The truth now: only males are allowed to live. If females hatched, they are burned and their mothers punished, so none dare defy the law. Her voice cracked with anger. They fear losing power. They fear change. They fear the strength of their own blood. Elias listened, his jaw tightening. He had seen humans do the same in their past, destroy what they feared, oppress, what threatened power. He understood too. Well, he said, then your daughters are not weakness, they are hope. Kalira's eyes widened, faint light flickering in the darkness. No one had ever spoken those words to her, not even in secret. Hope had been forbidden, just as daughters were forbidden, but here was a human who spoke it without fear. Before she could answer, distant rumbling echoed down the cave walls. Elias froze. Dragons were searching outside. Their roars rolled through the night. The cave vibrated with each call. Kalira instinctively shielded him, curling her body around his smaller frame, her wings pressed against the walls. Holding him under her shadow, they waited, breaths shallow, minutes stretched into hours. Footsteps, claws scratching against stone, then silence again. Finally, Kalira lowered her wings. Though her body trembled, she whispered, "We cannot stay here. They will search until they find us." Elias nodded, his eyes sharp, but he did not waver. "Then we keep moving. We find your daughters, and we protect them, no matter the cost." Kalira stared at him, wondering why. Why would a human risk everything for her? For hatchlings that were not as kind, she asked softly, "Why do this? Why for me?" Elias looked straight into her silver eyes. "Because no one deserves chains. No one deserves to be killed for being born, because if we do nothing, then the council wins, and I will not let them win." His voice cut like steel. Simple, true. Kalira felt something she had not felt in years. Trust. They rested only briefly before moving deeper into the cave system. The tunnels twisted endless blackness, broken only by faint glows of crystal veins pulsing with strange light. Elias guided her when the path narrowed, squeezing through tight gaps. She carried him across pools of dark water. When the floor dropped too deep together, they moved as one, though strangers bound by fate behind them. The echoes of hunters never ceased, distant, but always their claws against stone wings, against air, voices promising vengeance as the night bled into day. Elias felt the weight of exhaustion pressing hard, but his resolve burned brighter. Kalira too, though weakened, found strength in his presence. She no longer felt alone. She no longer felt cursed. Instead, she felt something dangerous, something powerful rising. Inside Hope, they paused at a ledge overlooking a vast underground chamber. Stalactites hung like teeth. From the ceiling, rivers of glowing crystal ran through the floor, illuminating the space. Like starlight, Elias stared in awe, but Kalira gazed fixed on a narrow tunnel across the chamber. Her voice trembled. "My daughters are there." Elias turned to her, firm, steady. "Then let us reach them before the council does." But even as the words left his mouth, a roar unlike any before shook the chamber. The ground split, dust raining from the ceiling. Shadows stretched across the walls, and from the darkness stepped a dragon larger than any they had yet seen. His scales shone like obsidian, his eyes burned with molten fire. The elder had followed himself. Kalira heart dropped. Elias' hand tightened on a jagged shard of rock, his only weapon. The elder voice thundered, echoing through every crack and cavern, "You dare defy me, human. You dare steal what is mine tonight. You both die." Elias' heart pounded, but his voice did not falter. "Then come, take us." The chamber filled with fire. The hunt was not over. It had only just begun. Caverns shook with the roar. The elder dragon towered above the ledge, his wings spread wide, filling the space with shadows. His eyes glowed like molten suns. Every breath he released poured heat into the air. Elias felt his skin burn, but he refused to step back. He stood firm, his hand still gripping the shard of rock. Even though he knew it was useless against such a beast, Kalira stepped in front of him, her body battered but her eyes. Fierce, her wings lifted, though they trembled from weakness she knew. She could not win against the elder, not in this state, but she would not allow him to touch the human who had given her hope. She hissed, her voice rough but steady. You will not have him. The elder laughed, the sound thunderous, shaking loose stones from the ceiling. He mocked her, a mother protecting a human when she could not even protect her own kind. He spat fire along the ground, scorching the crystals into glass. The light flickered and died, leaving only the glow of his burning eyes. He growled, "Hand him over and I may let you die." Quickly, Elia's heart pounded, but his voice stayed calm. Said, "If you want her, you will have to come through." Meth Elder narrowed his eyes. Amused by the challenge of one fragile human, he lowered his head, jaws wide, fire swirling inside, ready to consume both Elias and Kalira in a single blast. But before the flames could strike, Kalira reared back and released. Was weaker than she wished. Her strength was drained, but the flames still met his in a sudden explosion. The cavern shook violently. The shockwave threw Elias to the ground, smoke-filled. The air throw, the haze. Kalira shouted, "Run!" She turned her body fully toward the elder, her claws scraping against the stone as she fought to block him. Her fire met his again. Sparks rained like stars across the cavern. Silingalias coughed, struggling to breathe, but he forced himself up. He knew running meant leaving her behind, but he also knew if he stayed, he would be a burden. He sprinted along the ledge, searching desperately for a path across. The chamber toward the tunnel Kalira had pointed to earlier, the path crumbled beneath his boots loose. Rocks tumbling into the glowing rivers below. Behind him, he heard Kalira scream. The sound filled with pain. He turned and saw the elder had slammed her against the wall, chains rattling around. Legs, again though broken, still clung to her scales. She clawed and kicked, trying to break free, but the elder pressed her down, his teeth snapping close to her throat. Telia's rage ignited. He grabbed a crystal shard, sharp and glowing hot. He ran straight toward the massive dragon, leaping onto his tail. Climbing with every ounce of strength, his hands burned, his legs shook, but he climbed higher until he reached the base of the wings. He stabbed the shard deep into the joint. The elder roared in fury, his body thrashing wildly. The cavern walls cracked from the force. Elias was thrown off, landing hard on the stone. His breath was knocked out. But the wound had done its work. One of the elder wings drooped, bleeding, molten. Blood onto the ground. Kalira seized the moment. She struck forward, her claws raking across his chest, leaving glowing scars. He reeled back in fury, his tail sweeping through the chamber, smashing stalagmites to rubble, but she pushed forward with everything she had left. Her fire burst again, weaker, but enough to blind him for a second. Delias staggered to his feet. His chest ached, his vision blurred, but he shouted, "Go, Kalira, go to your daughters." Hesitated, torn between staying to fight or fleeing, but then she saw the determination in his eyes. She spread her wings, battered though they were, and leaped toward him, scooping him onto her back. With one sweep, she lunged across the chamber, heading for the narrow tunnel. The elder roared behind them, shaking the very stone. He tried to give chase, but his wounded wing dragged him down. He slammed against the cavern walls, in fury, fire spilling from his mouth, lighting the chamber into an inferno. Elias clung tight as Kalira raced into the tunnel. The passage was tight, forcing her to fold her wings close sharp. Rocks scraped along her sides, sparks bursting with every strike. The air filled with smoke. The tunnel twisted in endless turns, each one threatening to collapse under the weight of the elder behind them. His roars echoed louder, closer, his claws raking through stone to widen the tunnel in pursuit. Kalira gasped. With every beat of her wings, pain lanced through her body, but she refused to stop. Elias whispered close to her neck, "Keep going just a little further." The tunnel opened suddenly into a vast hollow chamber, lit by glowing pools of crystal blue light. The air was cooler, calmer for a moment. Elias felt relief, but then he saw movement, small shapes hiding behind rocks, tiny eyes glowing in the dim light. 3 hatchlings peered out, their scales silver like their mother, their voices soft. Cries of fear and confusion. Kela's heart swelled with both joy and terror. She called to them, her voice breaking, "Come to me, my daughters." Hatchlings Scrambled forward, their small wings flapping clumsily, they rushed into her embrace, pressing close to her sides. She wrapped her wings around them, even as her body shook from exhaustion. Elias climbed down to the ground, his breath heavy as he looked at the tiny dragons each. One glowing with fierce light, they were stronger than he imagined. Their presence filled the chamber with a sense of power, but the moment of peace shattered as the elder voice thundered through the tunnel. "You cannot hide from me." The sound made the hatchlings cry in fear. Kalira pressed them closer, her eyes filled. With fury, she whispered to Elias, "Take them if I fall. You must keep them." Sephilia shook his head. "No, we stand together. If you fall, I fall with youth." Ground quaked as the elder forced his massive body to the chamber, shards of stone crashing around him. His wounded wing dragged along the ground, but his rage gave him strength. His fire lit the pools, boiling them into steam. The air grew thick, hot, choking. Kalira pushed her daughters behind her. Elias stood at her side, armed only with another shard of crystal. The elder sneered at the sight of them, both defiance glowing in their eyes. He said, "Foolish human, foolish mother, your resistance ends." Now Leah's heart thundered, but his voice stayed strong. "Then come end." If elder roared, and the chamber exploded into chaos, fire, light, and stone, filling every corner as the battle for survival began. The chamber shook with each step of the elder dragon. His massive body filled the hollow, his wings dragging, broken, yet still powerful, molten. Fire dripped from his wounds, each drop hissing against the stone. The heat grew unbearable. Elias felt sweat pour down his face, but he held his shard of crystal ready. His hands shook, yet his eyes never left the towering beasts. Kalira stood tall. Though her body trembled, her wings stretched wide, shielding her daughters behind her. The three hatchlings pressed close, their tiny bodies glowing faint silver light, their eyes wide with fear. But within that fear, something stronger flickered, a spark of power that even they did not understand. Elder growled, his voice rolling like thunder. "You cannot protect them, weak mother. You cannot save them, human. Your bones will burn here. Your ashes will scatter to the wind." He opened his jaws, fire swirling in his throat, ready to end them all with one blast. Jalea's heart hammered. He knew they could not withstand that fire, not altogether, not with the hatchlings trapped behind their mother. He looked at Kalira, his voice sharp. "Move now." She obeyed without hesitation. She dove to the side, dragging her daughters with her. Elias ran the other way. The fire erupted, filling the chamber with blinding light. The ground shook, cracks splitting across the stone. The pools of crystal boiled into stemmed blast missed them, but the force hurled Elias across the floor. His body slammed into the wall, pain seared through him. He gasped for breath, but forced himself up, gripping the shard tighter. Kalira leapt back into the fight, her claws slashing across the elder chest. Sparks flew, scales shattered, but the elder swatted her aside with his tail. The impact echoed through the chamber. She crashed against the wall, her wings folding tight around her daughters to shield them from falling. Stoneth elder advanced, his eyes blazing with hate. Elias saw the chance. He charged straight at the beast, darting between massive claws. His boots slipped on the steaming floor, but he drove forward, stabbing the crystal shard into the dragon leg. The elder roared, the sound shaking the entire cavern. Elias was thrown back again, but the wound bled, molten fire dripping in streams. The air filled with the smell of scorched stone. "Yo dare wound me, human," the elder roared, his voice filled with rage. "You will beg for death." He lunged at Elias's jaws, snapping, but Kalira hurled herself between them, her body slamming into the elder's side. She roared, flames bursting from her chest. The fire clashed against his stronger blaze, yet it bought Elias a moment. He scrambled to his feet, running back toward the hatchlings. Three small dragons trembled, but their eyes locked on their mother. They saw her bleeding, her scales cracking, yet still she fought. They felt her fear, but also her courage, something deep awoke inside them. One hatchling opened her tiny jaws, and a spark of silver flame flickered out, weak at first, but glowing bright. The others followed, silver fire crackling into the air. The chamber filled with a strange light, softer than the elder blaze, but sharper, more focused. Elder froze for a brief moment, his eyes widening in shock, then narrowing in rage. "No," he bellowed. "No female flame cannot rise." Again struck forward to crush them, but Elias ran in front of the hatchlings, arms wide. His voice a raw shout, "You will not touch." Them's elder laughed, a cruel sound. You think to stop me with flesh and stone, you are nothing. But before his jaws could snap down, Calira slammed into him, again her claws digging deep, her wings beating. Hard she roared with all the strength left in her, "You will not harm my daughters." Hatchling's fire grew stronger, silver flames. Twisting together, forming a stream that shot across the chamber, it struck the elder across his wounded chest, searing. Deeper than Elias Shard had done, the elder screamed, the sound deafening, shaking dust from the ceiling. He stumbled back, thrashing in fury, his tail smashing against the stone. Elias saw the chance. He ran forward once more, climbing onto the elder. Back gripping broken scales, he pulled himself higher. Despite the heat burning his skin, he reached the base of the neck and drove the shard deep. With every ounce of strength he had left, molten blood sprayed across him. The elder shrieked, thrashing, wildly smashing his body against the cavern wall. "Shoulder on Elias," Calira cried, but he could barely hear her through the roar of the beast. The shard sank deeper, cracking through bone. The elder stumbled, crashing onto one knee. The chamber quaked. The ceiling above splintered finally with one last furious roar. The elder spun violently. Throwing Elias from his back, he hit the ground hard. Vision blurring, darkness threatening to take him. Calira rushed to shield him, her wings wrapping around his body. The elder staggered his chest, heaving, his eyes burning with endless hate, but his body weakening, his voice rasping. "You cannot change what is written. Your kind will die, her kind will die." Lurched forward one last time, fire spilling from his throat, but the hatchlings together released their flame again. Silver streams merging into one brilliant blaze, it struck him head-on. The elder staggered, screamed, and fell, his massive body crashing into the crystal pools, shattering them. Light burst through the chamber, then faded into silence. Only the hiss of cooling stone remained. Kella collapsed beside Elias, her breath ragged. Her daughters rushed to her, pressing their small bodies against her side. She lifted her head, weak but proud. "They live," she whispered through pain. "They..." Levelius forced himself up, every bone aching, but his voice steady and sure. "Yes, and because of that." So the Wethy chamber was silent now, but both of them knew this was only the beginning. The elder had fallen, but the council would not stop. They would come with greater fury. When they learned the truth, female hatchlings had survived, and their fire had risen. Agonelias looked at the daughters, their silver flame still glowing faintly. He turned to Calira, his voice quiet but filled with certainty. "They are not weakness. They are the future." Calira eyes shone with tears, not of sorrow, but of hope. For the first time in centuries, hope had not been burned away. It had been born again. But then faint sounds echoed from the tunnel above, heavy wings, claws scraping against stone, voices growling with rage. More dragons were coming, the council hunters. Drawn by the battle, they had no time. Leah helped Calira to her feet, her daughters gathered close there. Silver eyes burning bright, he said, "We cannot fight them all. Not yet. We must flee, live to fight another." Calira nodded, her strength failing, but her spirit unbroken. Together they moved deeper into the tunnels, their path uncertain, but their purpose clear. Protect the daughters, keep the flame alive, defy the councilors. They disappeared into the shadows. The roars of the approaching hunters filled the cavern, yet within that darkness something stronger than fear stirred. The promise of survival, the promise of rebellion, the promise that hope would not die at tunnels. Stretched on forever, twisting through the heart of the mountain, every step echoed with danger. Elias led the way, holding a broken crystal shard that glowed faint blue in the dark. His body ached from wounds, his hands raw from climbing, but he kept moving. Calira limped behind, her daughters close against her sides, her tiny silver flames glowing faint light that flickered on the stone walls. Sound of pursuit never left them, claws scraping against rock, wings brushing narrow gaps, low growls carried by the air. The hunters were close sometimes. Their roars shook loose dust from the ceiling. Sometimes the echoes made it sound like they were already ahead. Elias knew they could not outrun dragons forever, but he also knew stopping meant death. At last the tunnel opened into a wider cavern, the ceiling lost in shadow, the floor uneven with jagged stones, scattered pools of glowing liquid. "Shh!" whispered, "This place is cursed. It is where my kind once hid long ago." Before the council purged, Itelius scanned the cavern, his instincts Sharp something felt wrong, too quiet, too open. He motioned for them to stay close. But before he could take another step, a voice cut through the air. Not the growl of dragons, but a human. Voice, you run well for prey. Commandant Aurelius froze. His hand tightened on the shard. From the shadows stepped a man dressed in dark armor marked with dragon symbols. His helmet tucked under one arm, his face pale, scarred, eyes sharp with greed. Behind him stood two dragons, smaller than the elder, but strong, their wings folded, their eyes glowing with Hytelia's. Felt his stomach twist. He knew the man. His name was Renard, a mercenary, once human soldier, who betrayed his kind long ago for coin and favor. He now served the council, hunting rebels and fugitives. Renard smirked, stepping closer, his boots clicking against the stone. You always had too much heart, Ward, risking your life for beasts who would kill you without thought. How noble, how foolish. Shella hissed, her fire flickering low. Her daughters pressed closer to her, shaking. Elias stood firm, his voice calm, though anger burned in it. You sold your honor for scraps, Renard. You serve those who would burn children alive. Renard shrugged with a cold smile. Children or weapons? Does it matter? The council pays well, and tonight they will pay me more for you. And for hurt, raised his hand. The dragons at his sides spread their wings, fire building in their throats. The cavern lit with deadly glow. Elias knew they were trapped. His mind raced, searching for escape.
Ow.
There was no way out, but Forwardrunner drew a blade forged from dragon steel. It glowed red. With heat, he pointed it at Elias, his voice sharp. Step aside. Give me the mother and her spawn. I may let you crawl. Wallace tightened his grip on the shard. No silence stretched for a heartbeat.
Ow.
Then the cavern exploded into chaos. The two dragons unleashed fire streams, scorching the stone. Elias dove forward, rolling across the floor. Heat seared past his skin. He rose, swinging the shard. It clashed against Renard. Blade sparks bursting. The force nearly knocked him back, but he held ground. Teeth clenched, muscles screaming. Kellera leapt into the fight, her claws striking one of the dragons, pinning it against the wall. Her weakened body trembled, but she fought with fury. Her daughters huddled behind a rock, their silver eyes glowing, watching their mother battle against death itself. Itzelf Renard pressed against Elias, blows his sword heavy, every strike designed to kill. He sneered. You cannot win, Ward. You are broken already. He slashed across Elias' arm. Blood-sprayed pain lanced, but Elias forced himself to counter, striking with desperation. His shard cut into Renard's side. Drawing a grunt but not slowing him, the mercenary kicked Elias hard, sending him sprawling. Thragon freed itself from Kellera claws, its tail whipping her across the cavern. She slammed against stone, coughing blood, but rose again. Her eyes blazing, she would not fall. Not yet. Renard advanced on Elias, raising his sword for the final strike. But then a blast of silver flame shot across the cavern. One of the hatchlings had stepped forward, its tiny chest glowing. It unleashed a stream of fire brighter than its size should allow. The flame struck Renard across the chest, knocking him back. He cursed, stumbling, his armor glowing hot. Elias seized the moment. He lunged, driving the shard into Renard's shoulder. The man roared, his sword clattering against stone. Elias kicked him down, pressing the shard closer. Renard spat blood, his eyes wide with rage. You cannot protect them forever. The council will hunt you until the stars burn out. You are nothing. Gilia's voice was steady, maybe, but tonight Ulysses ripped the shard free, striking again. This time across Renard's throat. The mercenary gasped, choking, falling still, his blood steaming on the hot stone. Silence fell for a breath, broken only by the clash of Kellera and the remaining dragon. She roared, her fire colliding with its. The cavern glowed white-hot. Elias rushed to her side, grabbing another shard of crystal. He drove it into the dragon leg. It shrieked, stumbling. Kellera lunged, jaws snapping, her teeth sinking into its neck. With a final roar, she dragged it down, crushing it beneath her weight. The beast twitched, then lay still. The cavern went quiet at last. The smell of blood smoke and ash thickened the air. Elias stood, chest heaving, blood dripping from his wounds. Kellera collapsed beside her daughters, her breath ragged, but her eyes alive. They rushed to her, pressing close, their small wings flapping nervously. She nuzzled them, whispering, You are Syphilius. Dropped the shard, his hands trembling, his body near collapse. but he forced himself to stay alert. He knew the fight was not over. Renard words echoed in his mind. The council will not stop. They will come again stronger. Next, Timicalira turned to him, her voice weak but firm. You saved us again, but at what cost? You bleed. You break, yet you keep standing. We Elias met her eyes. Because if we stop, they win. If we give in, they burn everything. But if we fight, maybe, just maybe, we give them a future. Gaze softened, filled with something beyond gratitude, respect beyond words. She lowered her head in a gesture of trust, ancient to her kind. You are more dragon than many of my kin before. Elias could answer. The ground trembled, distant roars carried. Through the tunnels more hunters were coming. Their time was gone. Elias helped Kalira to her feet. The hatchlings climbed onto her back. Clinging tightly, their silver flames glowing brighter, as if sensing the danger, he looked at the tunnel ahead. Narrow and winding deeper into the unknown, he said, we move now no matter what waits forward. It is better than what hunts. Bahin Kalara nodded, spreading her wings, though torn and battered together. They stepped into the darkness, the sound of pursuit. Echoing closer yet, within that darkness something new burned, not just survival, not just fear, but the fire of defiance. The fire of Hopius. They vanished deeper into the tunnels, the cavern behind filled with shadows of new dragons arriving there. Voices snarling, their eyes burning with vengeance. The hunt was far from over. The council had been wounded, their pride scarred. And they would unleash fury across the land, but for the first time in centuries, the future did not belong to them alone. The silence between heartbeats. Elias looked back once, his voice low but certain. Let them come. We are not done, not yet. The journey pressed onward, danger waiting at every turn, but something stronger than fear now guided them, human and dragon-bound. Together by choice, not by chains, by hope, not by law, and by the promise that even in the darkest tunnels light can be born. Tunnels narrowed into sharp black stone, the walls wet with dripping water. Every step echoed like thunder. Elias moved. First, his boots sliding on uneven ground, his body cut and bruised from the fight behind him. Kalira followed her breath. Heavy, her daughters clung to her sides, their silver flames flickering small lights in the dark. The air was thick with silence, broken only by the distant roars of dragons hunting. Themelias knew they could not run forever. Every path would end with the council closing in. He thought of Renard words. The council would kill all humans on dragon worlds if they did not surrender. The thought pressed heavy against him. Humans had built small colonies among the stars, and many lived near dragon space. If war began, countless would die. He clenched his fists. He could not let that happen, yet he could not abandon Kalira or her. Daughter C reached a hollow chamber wide enough for Kalira to rest. She lowered herself to the stone, curling her wings around her daughters. She whispered soft words to calm them. Elias paced, scanning the shadows. He felt the walls closing in. His chest tight with pressure, he knew what came next. Not just pursuit, but Worth's sound of shifting stone caught his ears. He turned sharply. Shard of crystal raised from the far side of the chamber. Two figures stepped into the dim glow. Not dragons, but humans armed in worn armor, their weapons crude rifles. They froze when they saw Elias, their eyes wide. One whispered, Commander Ward, we thought you were Daedalus. Stared in shock. They were from one of the nearby human colonies. Scouts sent to monitor dragon lands. He recognized their insignia. Relief flickered through him, but it quickly faded when their eyes shifted to Kellara and her daughters. Their faces filled with fear and suspicion. The older scout raised his rifle. What is this? Why are you protecting them? Kalira lowered her head. Wary, her daughters hissed, faint silver fire sparking in their throats. Elias raised his hand, calm. He said quietly, they are not our enemy. Not these. They are hunted by the council. Because they are female hatchlings. The council will wipe out every colony, every human, if we do not stand with them. Scouts exchanged looks, disbelief clear. One whispered, female hatchlings, impossible. The council burns them all. Elias' voice hardened. Not anymore. Not while I still breathe. Abor, they could respond. The chamber shook with a roar. Dust rained from the ceiling. The scouts' eyes widened. Hunters, the dragons had found them. Elias shouted, hide! Protect the daughters! Kalia spread her wings, shielding The hatchling's Elias ran to the scouts, his voice sharp. If you want humanity to survive, fight with me now. Tunnels split open, fire poured in hunters to burst through black-scaled dragons, their jaws glowing with flame. The scouts fired rifles, the sound cracking through the chamber. One dragon shrieked as bullets tore its wing, but it pressed forward, its tail sweeping across the floor, smashing stone. Elias charged, crystal shard in hand. He ducked under claws and drove the shard into the leg of one. Dragon molten blood sprayed, burning his arms. But he held on. Kellera unleashed fire, blasting another hunter back into the wall. Her roar shook the chamber. Her daughters cried, but their silver flames sparked, lighting the shadow scouts, but desperately reloading fast. Firing again, but one was caught in a burst of fire. His scream echoed. Before silence fell, Elias' fury burned. He struck harder, climbing the hunter back, driving the shard into its neck. The beast writhed, crashing into the stone. He leapt free before it fell. Dead's remaining hunter hissed, wings spread, but it hesitated, eyes fixed on the silver flames of the hatchlings. It growled in fear and anger, then turned, fleeing back through the tunnel, its roar echoing. Retreatsilence returned, broken by the crackle of fire. The chamber blackened with smoke. Kellera lowered herself, trembling, blood dripping from her wounds. Elias staggered, his shard broken, his breath ragged. The surviving scout stared at him, eyes wide. What have you done, Ward? If the council learns humans are protecting female hatchlings, they will bring war. Elias met his gaze steady, then let them bring it, because this war is already. Herethi words hung heavy. The scout lowered his rifle, eyes torn between fear and loyalty. Finally he nodded. Grimly, then we fight. Kellera lifted her head, weak but proud. She looked at Elias, her voice low. You would risk your kind for mine, Elias answered. Without hesitation, we stand together, or we fall. Alaneath scout led them. Deeper through tunnels to a hidden camp, a place carved into the mountain where other humans had gathered. Rebels, outcasts, survivors. They gasped when they saw the dragons. Some reached for weapons, but Elias raised his hand. No, these are allies. These are the future whispers. Spread fear, doubt, disbelief, but also something else, curiosity, hope. Elias spoke to them all, his voice steady, clear. The council will never stop. They fear change. They fear strength. They will kill us all if we do not act. But tonight we saw what they fear most, the fire of these daughters, their power together. We can fight not just to survive, but to win humans. Murmured, uncertain, yet drawn by his words. Kellera lowered her head to them, her silver eyes soft. She said, my kind would have killed me, my daughters, but this human did not. He saw more than law. He saw life. I will fight with him if you will stand. With meth chamber filled with silence, then voices rose one by one, until it became a roar, humans shouting in defiance. The first cry of rebellion against the council, but outside the mountain, the council gathered, already aware of what had happened. The death of the elder, the rise of forbidden flames, the betrayal of humans. War drums echoed across the valleys. Dragons filled the sky, black wings blotting out the stars. Their voices thundered with promises of vengeance. Inside, the hidden camp, Elias looked to Kellera, to the hatchlings, to the humans who had chosen to fight. He knew the war would be terrible, but for the first time. He did not feel alone for the first time. There was a chance. Kellera curled around her daughters, their silver flames glowing brighter than before. She whispered softly to them, hope is not hidden any longer. Hope fleecened as the night deepened. The mountain shook with the march of dragons. The war for the future of both species had begun. Thinned mountain trembled with the weight of wings. Outside the hidden camp, black clouds of dragons circled. Their roars split the sky. Thunder mixed with fire. The council had come with fury. The air burned with smoke as flames swept across the slopes. Human rebels crouched behind stone barricades, gripping their rifles, shaking from fear, yet holding on, their eyes locked to the cavern mouth, where death would soon pour through. Inside the chamber, Elias stood at the center, his body wrapped in torn bandages, his hands gripping a broken shard of crystal. The glow faint but steady. Kellera rested near him. Her scales scarred, her wings heavy. Her daughters pressed against her, their silver flames glowing bright enough to light the room, their eyes wide, not with fear, but with something stronger. Determination. Scout, who had survived the battle with Renard, spoke. His voice hoarse. Commander, they outnumber us 100 to 1, even with dragons on our side. This mountain cannot hold. Elias did not turn his gaze steady on the cavern mouth, his voice low. Then we make it cost them so much. They choke on their victory. Chalira shifted her head, lowering her voice to him. They will kill you if you stay. They will kill us all. Elias looked at her, meeting her silver eyes. If we run, they kill more than us. They burn every colony, every village, every hatchling. We cannot run any longer. Chamber grew quiet, then broken by the hatchlings. They stepped forward, their small bodies trembling, their silver flames brighter than ever. One whispered, Mother, we can help. Kalira eyes widened, her heart pounding. No, you are too young. But Elias saw the flames, and in them he saw something no law, no council could destroy. Power born of defiance. He knelt to them, his voice steady. You are not weapons, you are life. But if you choose to fight, you do it for tomorrow, not for revenge. Hatchlings nodded, their voices small but firm. We choose tomorrow. Before more could be said, the mountain shook again. Stone cracked, fire poured through cracks as hunters smashed into the chamber, their black scales glowing, their eyes burning with rage. The rebels screamed, firing rifles, bullets sparked against thick scales. Kalira leapt forward, her roar shaking the cavern. She met the first hunter in a clash of claws, and flame silver fire from her daughters joined, striking the beast at scales, melting under the impossible light. It shrieked, crashing into the ground. Elias charged alongside the rebels, his shards slicing into another hunter leg. He was thrown back by a tail strike, his body slamming into stone, but he rose, blood dripping, his eyes fierce. He would not stop. Fight filled the cavern, dragons against humans, fire against flame. The rebels fought like wolves cornered. Their fear turned to fury. Every shot counted, every strike a stand against extinction. The hatchlings unleashed bursts of silver fire, each strike burning deeper than any human weapon. The hunters faltered, confusion clear in their eyes. The council had never seen such power from those they thought impossible. The council was not finished. A roar greater than all others shook the cavern. An ancient dragon stepped forward, scales black as night, eyes like burning suns, its wings stretched, filling the chamber. It was the High Counselor, the tyrant. Huda had ordered the purge for centuries. Its voice thundered, enough. This ends tonight. Fear rippled through rebels, and even Kalira froze. The High Counselor was larger than any dragon she had ever seen. A living mountain of fire. It stepped forward, crushing stone beneath its claws. Its gaze fell on the hatchlings, its voice dripping venom. Abominations. You should never have been born. Hatchlings cried out, their flames flaring but dim beside the counselor power. Elias stepped in front of them, his body broken, his shard dull yet stood arms wide, his voice cutting through the roar. Then you will have to kill me first. Counselor laughed, a sound like rolling thunder. One human stands against me, foolish. But before it could strike, Kalira surged forward, her body slamming into its leg, her roar filled with fury. Centuries of silence breaking. You will not touch them. You will not touch him. Counselor staggered, then roared, slamming her aside. She crashed against stone, coughing blood. Elias rushed to her side, but she shook her head, whispering, Fight. Do not stop, Counselor. Reared back, flame building in its throat, enough fire to incinerate all in the chamber. The rebels screamed. Some fled, some fired in desperation. Elias closed his eyes for a heartbeat, then opened them with steel. He looked at the hatchlings. Their flames brighter now, burning silver white. He shouted to them, together now. All of Ithi stepped forward side by side, their small bodies trembling, their voices rising. In a cry they unleashed a torrent of silver flame. It struck the counselor full in the chest. The cavern shook, light exploding brighter than the sun. The black scales cracked, the mighty roar turned to a scream. The counselor staggered as its body burned silver fire, eating through darkness. Celius felt the heat sear his skin, yet he stood refusing to fall. Kalira rose again, blood pouring from her wounds. She added her flame to theirs. The chamber filled with blinding light. The counselor shrieked, its wings flailing the walls, splitting under its fury. Then with one final roar, collapsed, stone crashing down its body, shattered by the silver blazolence, followed heavy, broken only. By the sound of dripping water, the High Counselor lay still, its black scales melted, its eyes dark. The rebels stared in shock. Disbelief filling their faces, the hunters that remained hissed in terror, then fled their wings, carrying them into the. Natalius dropped to his knees, his shard falling from his hand. His chest heaving, Kalira stumbled to his side, her daughters ran to her, pressing close their silver flames. Now soft but steady she nuzzled them, whispering, "You have changed everything." The surviving scout stepped forward, his rifle lowering, his voice shaking. "Commander, the counselor is dead. The hunters have fled. We won." Elias lifted his head, his eyes tired, but burning. "No, not yet. This was only the first strike. The council will come again. They will not forgive this, but now they know we will not both." Rebels raised their voices, shouting together for the first time, not in fear, but in victory. A cry that echoed through the mountain, across the valleys. Into the night, a cry of defiance. Akella lowered her head beside Elias, her voice soft but strong. "You stood when none would stand. You gave them hope." Elias shook his head. "No. We gave it together, you, me, them, and these daughters. Their light will carry us forward." Outside, the storm cleared the sky, filled with stars. The silver flames of the hatchlings reflected in them, bright, unbroken. Elias looked to the horizon, his voice low but certain. "The war is not done but tonight. The future is our stay." Hatchlings curled against their mother, their eyes closing, but there. Flames still glowing, the rebels prepared their camp now, no longer hiding, but standing ready. The mountain that once was only stone now carried the spark of something greater, and, in the silence that followed with stars burning above and fire still glowing within, Elias knew the truth. Humans and dragons would never be the same again. A new age had begun, not of chains, not of fear, but of defiance and hope, and the promise that even against all odds, life could rise brighter than fire itself.